Hey friends, I have some vintage patriotic DIYs that I'm really excited to show you, so come craft with me. I'm Sarah, and welcome to my channel, Primrose Lane Prims. I hope you'll consider sticking around for a while by hitting that subscribe button. And now, let's get right into these DIYs. For this first DIY, we're going to be using these small little flags that you can find at Walmart, Lowe's, all kinds of places this time of year. They're pretty inexpensive. This is one of the nylon ones, and I went ahead and took it off the plastic stick it came on. I want to make this flag look more vintage, so I took some Waverly Antique Wax, mixed a few drops of water in it to thin it out, and with my sponge brush, I'm just going to go over my flag with my antique wax. This is going to give it that vintage tea stain look without actually having to tea stain. This to me is a lot faster and a lot easier than actually tea staining something. And I'm going to go over my flag on both the front and back side. And this will be a little darker when it first goes on, and as it dries it will lighten up slightly. So you can go over it a couple times if it's not as dark as you would want it to be, or you can leave your antique wax add less water. If you want to make it a little thicker, that'll also darken it up more too. It's just personal preference of how rustic you want your flag to look. Next, I'm going to take a glass jar and I'm going to take my matte finish Mod Podge and I'm going to go over the entire jar with my Mod Podge. Now this is going to give it that frosted glass look. And I'm just using an old pickle jar that I had here that I had saved to upcycle it for this project. But you could also use a ball jar or pick up one of the glass jars from the Dollar Tree. This is just what I had on hand, and I thought it would be the perfect way to upcycle this pickle jar so that it didn't end up in the garbage. Once I've got my whole jar covered in the Mod Podge, I'm going to add a little bit extra to the front of the jar, and then I'm going to take my flag and I'm just going to lay it right across right there in the center of my jar and press it down into the Mod Podge really good. Once your flag is placed where you want it and pressed down in that Mod Podge real good, go ahead and take your Mod Podge and put another layer right on top of there to really seal that flag in. Next, I'm going to take my jute cord from Walmart and using some hot glue, I'm going to attach it here to the top and wrap it around these threads at the very top of the jar. I'm just going to keep gluing and wrapping until I get it all the way to the very top of the jar, and that way it hides all of those glass threads there where the lid, originally went, and it gives it that nice rustic vintage look. I don't think I've actually said yet, but you've probably already figured out we are making a glass lantern. A little glass lantern jar that you can pop a candle down to decorate for the 4th of July. These are great to maybe pop on your porch to decorate for the 4th, or even inside. They look cute inside or outside. Just keep wrapping all the way to the top and secure the end there with a little bit of hot glue. The last thing I'm going to do with our little glass lantern is I'm going to take this thinner jute cord and I'm going to wrap it around my jar here and tie it in a knot to secure it. I'm also going to add a little dab of hot glue as well as tying it in a knot to make sure that it doesn't slip out of place and it stays where I want it to. And then once that's secured, I'm just going to take and I'm going to wrap it around my jar, crisscrossing it over on itself a few times, and then tying it at the top, and once again securing it with another dab of hot glue. I think these little lanterns turn out so cute, and I love to make several of these and put them down my porch stairs to light up for the 4th of July. They look so pretty lit up in the dark. For this DIY, we're once again going to be using these small little flags and taking some Waverly Antique wax and going over top of our flag to give it that vintage look. We don't want to look like a new flag. We want it to look like an old flag that's been kind of turned colors a little bit because it's just been around so long. And this antiquing wax gives it that beautiful tea-stained vintage look without having to tea stain. I'm going to go over both the front and the back of my flag again and let that dry. Next, I'm going to take a 5x7 picture frame. Now you can get these at Walmart, Dollar Tree, wherever. I'm not sure this one was a Walmart or Dollar Tree one, but I'm going to take out the insides, and I'm just going to take a just plain piece of cardstock here. I'm just going to take this inner insert and I'm going to pop it right on top of my cardstock, and then I'm going to trace it out so that I have the exact perfect size for my frame and cut out the cardstock. If you're enjoying this video so far, I hope you'll consider giving it a like, and if you haven't done so already, I hope you'll hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any future fun budget-friendly DIYs for around the home. Once you have your cardstock cut out, I'm going to take and place my flag right in the center, and then add some hot glue to glue the flag to the cardstock so that way it doesn't slip and move around. Now I'm going to glue all 4 edges. Nice and smooth. Make sure that your flag's nice and smoothed out. You don't want any wrinkles in your flag. This is such a simple DIY, but I absolutely love how it turns out. I think this might be my favorite of all the DIYs today, even though it's really simple. You guys will have to leave me a comment and let me know what you think. Once I get that glued on, next is just popping it right into the frame. And there you go. For this last DIY, I'm going to be taking one of these small terracotta pots. This is just one of the ones from the Dollar Tree that you can get right now. And I'm going to take Waverly Crimson chalk paint, and I'm going to give this one good coat of the crimson chalk paint. Now, as pretty as this crimson red is, I'm wanting this to look vintage and old, so we need to do some distressing. So to start off with that, I'm going to take my Waverly Antique Wax and I'm going to start going over top of my pot to start. And once I've got that, I'm going to take my Waverly white chalk paint and I'm going to go in and start dry brushing the white chalk paint around the pot as well. This is one of those we just gotta trust the process because it can look a little like, not sure where this is going, but by the end, it's going to look like a really pretty old distressed vintage pot. And your level of distressing is also personal preference too. Some people like their stuff to look really, really rustic and vintage, and some maybe just a touch, or some maybe not at all. And if that's the case, you could just leave it the red crimson. After I've got the white on there, I'm going to take my Waverly chalk paint in the color of ink. And now I'm going to start adding in some dry brushing of the ink chalk paint as well. I'm going to tone down that white. I want to tone down all of it and really make this little flower pot look just old. And there's no right or wrong with this. If you're doing it and you just don't like the way it looks, hey, just cover it back up with red chalk paint and start again. Once I have this black here, I'm going to take a paper towel to kind of smudge the colors together a little bit. And then go back in and keep adding my black until I get this distress to my liking. This is one of those just play with it and have fun with it. There's no right, there's no wrong. This is just using artistic imagination to create something that you find beautiful. Next, I'm just going to take a plain piece of printer paper and I'm going to kind of cut it out in an oval shape. And using a wet paper towel, I'm going to dab it around the edges to make it the paper soft and use my fingers just to pull up and give it that ripped paper, almost like a rough parchment edge. Using a fine tip Sharpie marker, I'm going to write out just freehand 1776, and then using my Waverly Antique Wax, I'm going to go over top of this paper and I'm going to make it look like an old piece of parchment. I'm going to focus on the edges, but I will put a light coat over the whole thing because, well, white paper itself doesn't look very vintage. When you think of vintage, you think of yellowed paper, and that's kind of the look we want. After I have that done, I'm going to take my Mod Podge and I'm going to add a little bit and put my paper right in the center of my flower pot. And then go back over it once again with Mod Podge. And then I'm actually going to go over the entire pot with Mod Podge. That'll seal in that paint really good and ensure that nothing seals and that the whole thing has the same kind of finish. Next, I'm going to take some floral foam from the Dollar Tree and I'm going to hot glue it right down in the center of my pot. Now this is just some extra pieces I had. You don't need a whole lot, just something because as you can see, I'm going to put a flag down in here. So just something to hold that flag. Next, I'm going to take some Spanish moss and I'm going to fill in the rest of my pot around the top here, glue it around the edges so that it's secure and doesn't pop out. Then I'm going to take my little vintage flag here. Now this one is already antiqued. I've already gone through with the Waverly wax and stained it so that it's vintage looking. And I'm just going to pop it right down into my pot, right in that floral foam. And here you go. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button down there, maybe share it with your friends. And Miss Molly here says, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already so that you don't miss any future budget-friendly DIYs for around the home. And until next time, bye friends.